And we are live. This is Troy Francis, joined once again by very special guest and good friend of mine, Mr. Sterling Cooper. How are you, sir?
I'm amazing, Troy. I'm amazing, man. It's been too long.
It really has. It really has.
We keep missing each other. Like you were in the US like a week ago, and I was in London, and now we've switched.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was part of the reason because I came back on. I got back here yesterday morning at some ungodly hour, like 7 a.m. or something. So I'm still sort of like readjusting a little bit with the old jet lag and stuff like that. But yeah, because you've said that you're currently in Miami. Is that right?
That is right.
So I was there recently for the CME. So I was there for a week or so, which was cool. And then I was in New York City. New York City, I've got to say, man, because we had a brief conversation about this actually, and you said, "Oh, I'm not a fan of New York," and I was like, "No, it's New York's great." Blah blah blah. I've got to say, having spent 2 weeks there, I'm a little bit over it, to be honest. It's very expensive. It's just I don't know, man. It's not what it was. I don't think there's just something about
it's lost its charm.
Yeah, there's just something about it. It's not like I used to have this fascination with it, but I think that was more from the films, from the 70s movies and then some of the stuff in the 90s and things. But it's just very bland now. It's just full of hipster coffee shops and all this kind of shit. Very expensive and not really a huge amount going on,
Hipster coffee shops and homeless people. There's lots of
basically, basically it's that combination, isn't it? Which is
the same thing happened to Los Angeles was the same, like actually very really nice places to live in the people I know who lived in America.
Yeah.
And then from 2000s on, like 2000s to 2010s onwards, really.
Yeah.
It started to spiral downhill rapidly. And
right.
Where we are now.
Well, yeah. Well, you got the whole thing of, without getting political, but you've got the whole thing about the blue states and what they're saying about what's happening in the cities and all of that. So there's that going on, but also as well, it just seems like it's very. I mean, the gentrification it's a bit of a problem everywhere, isn't it? Because it's on the one hand it's good because obviously it's kind of good that places are safer and etc. But it does make everything a little bit bland, I think.
A bit samey. Copy like everywhere you go, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I was walking down the street in New York and I was looking at different places and I was thinking to be honest, I could just be in London here, except that I kind of prefer London because it's got a bit more of that history and also I've just got more friends here. So, but apart from that, it's exactly the same.
I prefer London because I can get a Greggs sausage roll, personally.
Absolutely. You can't beat the sausage rolls here, man. That's what you come back for.
it reminds me of home. Like, because we obviously have sausage rolls back in Australia. So like every time first thing I do when I land in London is go to a Greggs.
That's amazing. I haven't actually had my first Greggs experience since I've been back here, but you reminded me to do it. Although I'm supposed to be off the carbs at the moment because I'm working quite hard with this trainer now, and he's being very strict. He's like, right, no fucking carbs except in the morning. So I've got to be a bit careful. Or have a sausage roll at 8 a.m. I suppose. Yeah,
sure. if you want to do that. I don't know if he'll approve of that.
He probably not, to be honest. But anyway, so obviously we're here to catch up. So you have a very exciting new launch which is going on at the moment. And what we're really here to talk about is sort of supercharging your size and performance in the bedroom, which is something obviously we've talked about previously, and obviously as a former adult entertainment star, this is an area of expertise for you. So maybe we can get into it. If you tell us a little bit about, what the new project is and how it came about.
Yeah, sure. Just shared a little image with you just there.
Oh, okay. Here we go.
So basically for the last 12 months, I've been putting together this supplement that you can see right here on the screen right now. I called it Wood because I didn't want to beat around the bush. I wanted to make it like really straight to the point. You know what it's about?
Absolutely.
But primarily, like the problem that always sort of arose, right, in the adult industry, let's say like in the porn industry where people have to perform like every day on like high pressure levels, what ended up happening, right? I'm just going to stop sharing this for like I'm just going to take this away for like 1 second while I kind of elaborate on this. The problem was like dudes would end up like using Viagra like every day.
Yeah.
You'd see this and you'd see like the problem with pills like Viagra, Cialis, or whatever, right? If you're using it very, very consistently all the time to fix like an ED problem or just to like, and I've seen guys like not like, regular guys just use things like Viagra just to try it out and just to feel like a bit more of a pump and feel like they've got a bit more like oomph downstairs when they're with a woman. And okay, that's all well and good, but what ends up happening is the more and more you use these kind of heavy pharmaceutical drugs, your body develops a drug resistance to it. And
yes,
you need more dose to get the same result. And then you need more dose to get, like, you times the dose by 2 to get the same result. Then, like, a few months later, you go times the dose by 4 to get the same result. And eventually, it stops working altogether. Your body just develops a resistance to this drug. And the problem is that, like, it doesn't, like, well, one, then you develop like a crutch and a kind of like a drug dependence, which then leads to like you developing kind of a complex and like an insecurity around like, oh, can I even get it up now when I don't have my, if I fly somewhere and I meet up with a lovely lady in a hotel room and I forgot to pack my little blue pills, like the dude's panicking now, you know?
Yeah.
And this, like, this is the analogy I always like to use with this kind of stuff is, if you're walking around with like a pebble in your shoe and you had pain in your foot because of that, the solution is not to take an aspirin. The solution is to take your shoe off, get rid of the pebble, and then go back to your normal life, right? You want to fix the underlying causes of these sort of things. And due to multitude of factors like the standard Western diet, sedentary lifestyle, compromised hormonal systems, compromised testosterone levels, like not exercising enough, not getting out and about in the sunlight enough, a whole host of other reasons, but also big dietary reasons. Dudes these days are having like problems earlier on, younger, having erectile dysfunction problems, and they're not able to kind of fire up and be firing on all cylinders like they would have been when they were like, say, 16. This is even happening to guys in their mid-20s. Like, dudes, 1/4 of the cases of erectile dysfunction that get reported in the US, for example, are dudes under the age of 40. Like, this is happening more.
Really?
And so, okay, when I was in the industry, I was like, okay, well, I don't want to end up relying on like these pharmaceutical drugs to do my job. I want to try and find like a more natural like alternative. So basically, this supplement I've put together is actually is based off of the stack that I used to use like every day before I went to set, so that I could do the job. And
that's interesting.
It targets like 3 key mechanisms in the body, right? So I'll bring that image back up again. And I'll actually show what each thing does in this thing. Because I like the science behind this. I mean, I have a chemistry background, in case people didn't know that already about me. So I kind of like lean on that when it came to formulating this kind of stuff and looking into the science behind everything. So the 3 mechanisms the 3 things you need to focus on to either fix erectile dysfunction entirely, or to get stronger, longer lasting erections as well, and be as big as you possibly can be downstairs during the act of.
Yes.
There's 3 things. There's nitric oxide production, which, so for those who don't know, nitric oxide is what causes your blood vessels to relax, dilate, fill up with blood, right? Pills like Viagra and Cialis work because they focus on that mechanism. They kind of amplify it artificially, right? Your body excess. Now, again, you can develop a drug resistance to those things, and then they eventually stop working. However, the way you can hack that naturally is through a combination, actually, of these two top left ingredients, L-arginine and L-citrulline. So people might be familiar with these already. So things like, people take L-arginine for blood flow and for boosting nitric oxide levels. People also take L-citrulline for the same purpose. In your body, like the mechanism, the kind of chemical pathway goes L-citrulline, then to L-arginine, and then it helps you produce nitric oxide. They did a study in Japan a few years ago where they did like a control trial where they gave guys 2 grams of L-citrulline, 2 grams of L-arginine, a placebo, and then 1 gram of both L-arginine and L-citrulline combined. And what they found was that the combination of like half as much dose of each, but combined together, produced a significantly bigger boost in your nitric oxide levels than the effect between L-arginine and L-citrulline when you take them together. That really explodes your nitric oxide levels. So that's why these 2 are in there. Another really key thing here is the presence of beetroot extract. So another reason why big pharmaceutical drugs like Viagra, Cialis won't work for some guys is because they don't have any nitrates in their diet in the first place. And your body needs nitrates to produce nitric oxide. It's like a precursor molecule.
Okay.
So think of it like in the same way that you need cholesterol in your diet to create testosterone.
Okay, so those drugs they're building on what you should theoretically already have there. But if you haven't got it there, then there's nothing to work on, right?
Completely, exactly right. So we put beetroot extract in this supplement as well to make sure you have plenty of nitrates in your system in order to even produce the nitric oxide in the first place. If one's lacking, you can't produce the other one.
Right. Okay.
Pomegranate extract is another similar has similar effects. So pomegranate extract is a minor source of nitrates, not as much as beetroot, but it does have some. It also helps increase your nitric oxide production levels as well, in addition to L-arginine and L-citrulline. And it has a third massive benefit where its antioxidant load helps to clean out arteries and scavenge arterial plaques. So that goes down the path of the second key mechanism that can fix this stuff, and that's clean arteries, basically. So that's the purpose of pomegranate extract, vitamin K2, and horny goatweed. Horny goatweed, the active ingredient in this is icarin. And horny
goatweed sounds amazing. Does it do what it says on the tin? I mean,
it's been used. I mean, it's called that because it's been used as a herbal aphrodisiac for quite a long time.
Okay,
but there has actually been some scientific studies done on it for ED treatments and for cardiovascular health. So that it's not just. Usually, I usually don't recommend any of these exotic sounding herbs, but this one in particular does actually have science to back it up. So that's why it's in it. And basically those three ingredients there: vitamin K2, the MK7 variant, and the icarin, horny goatweed, and the pomegranate extract. All three of those help to clean out any calcium deposits, aka arterial plaques, that are sitting inside your arteries, because you have arteries that feed the penis, and they can get arterial plaques. They can get clogged up just like any other artery in your body can. And, erectile dysfunction issues, or not having a 10 out of 10 erection, is actually an early warning sign of having some potential cardiovascular issues. ED is this interesting thing where it's an early symptom sign of a bunch of diseases like cardiovascular problems, diabetes, obesity, even some prescription drug side effects. There's a bunch of things where ED is one of the early warning signs. So it's oh shit, it's like the check oil light in your car. If that starts coming on, you need to go back to the shop and start getting it inspected.
Why is it though? Do you think? Because you've mentioned already about guys in their 20s having this problem, and why do you think that is? Is that somebody's mentioned here about testosterone? Because I wanted to talk about that as well. He says this is better than just take TRT, which I get, because that's kind of the that's sort of standard throwaway advice, isn't it? We'll often get yeah, bro, just get on the gear. But is it related to that? Is that why these dudes are having more of a problem with getting erections, or do you think it's not as straightforward as that?
Cool. It's a good question. So testosterone, a low testosterone level, has more to do with your arousal and sex drive than it does directly have to do with erectile strength.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously, if you're more aroused, it will be easier for you to get an erection, get that kind of psychological jump start to even get the arousal response going in the first place. But then even still, you can have dudes who have regular, normal, healthy testosterone levels, but the dick ain't working properly.
Right. Okay.
It's because of these things we just talked about. And there's one, the third mechanism I didn't quite finish on there was there's a thing called your venous system, which contains all your veins and arteries, right? There's a thing called venous system locks. So basically, think of it like a channel with these locks, like a canal. Think of it like a canal in going across England, right? You've got all these canals, and you've got locks which allow boats to come in one direction and keep going in the other direction and change the water level and stuff like that. It's a very similar thing in your venous system, where if these locks aren't working properly and they're not healthy, well, then blood, well, normally if they're working healthy, blood flows in the one direction. It flows in the same direction that you want it to flow in, so AKA into your dick, and it stays there. It keeps it there. When these locks are very, very weak and they're unhealthy, well, then the blood starts to come out as much as it goes in. So you end up with like a subpar erection. You end up with like a 6 out of 10 instead of a 10 out of 10.
Right. Okay.
You get like you get a pushing rope, as we used to say.
That's really interesting because I do agree. I think people get the two things slightly confused sometimes, and it's the same thing with libido as well. Because if you talk about libido, say, oh, my libido's really low at the moment, and and my being a man in my late 20s, as you know, Sterling, obviously my libido has risen and has risen and fallen. So and so you do a video and you say, yeah, man, look, my libido's low, and people say, well, just get some Viagra, bro. And it's like, no, because Viagra is to me seems to be a very blunt instrument. Like, yeah, it'll probably get you hard, but that's not going to create the desire in itself. So libido or desire or whatever you want to call it, and then the mechanical physical act of getting an erection, those are they're related, but they're kind of separate, right?
Yeah, it's completely correct. Yeah, like that's the thing. Like that little blue pill or any of these gas station boner pills and stuff, they don't give you an erection. They will help you to maintain one for longer. Or they'll kind of force you to have.
Yeah. The other
they're not an aphrodisiac like you might say.
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose the classic thing people always said about Viagra and Cialis was you got to be aroused in the first place, right? You got to be with someone you think is attractive, and then it's going to sort of help out with that process. But I mean, the other thing as well, having used both of them in the past, Viagra and also Cialis, I always found Viagra to be more effective. But the other thing about it as well is people don't often talk about the side effects, but there are side effects. I mean, not in my experience. I mean, not like severe side effects, like you're going to end up in hospital or anything. But unless you really overdo it. But things like headaches, getting flushed, feeling really tired the next day, like feeling really, really crappy the next day, stuff like that. I found those to be quite present actually. With some of these.
Oh yeah, the headaches and the sinus problems from like Viagra.
Yeah, sinus problems. Yeah.
I mean, I'm nasally right now. It's not because I'm taking a Viagra right now. It's because I'm sick from flying too much. But you sound like this all the time. Let's say that if you use Viagra, you'll sound like this.
And like you said as well. I mean, it's obviously the people start to get dependent, but it starts to become less. It works less well because as you get used to it, you build up that tolerance, right? So you need to take more and more, and then symptoms get worse.
It becomes a crutch, and it's like, again, it's kind of circling back to it. It's like, what better for you to address the underlying problems of and all the key nutritional mechanisms that are gonna help your body to function as optimally as it possibly can. And it's not like it's going to help with your erection strength. It's also going to help with your workouts in the gym. You're going to get a better pump because everything else, that's still a blood flow thing. You're going to have more clarity of thought because of blood is going to where it needs to be. You're going to be healthier overall because blood is what delivers nutrients to every aspect of your body. So when your arteries are healthy, when the blood's flowing in the right direction, when the blood vessels are relaxed and dilated like you need them to be, that's exactly how your body wants to operate. It's like its default factory settings. And when you try to like you said, use a blunt instrument to artificially get a better result out of that, it'll work. It'll work initially in the short term, but eventually it becomes a crutch. Eventually you develop a drug resistance to it, and there's all these annoying side effects to it, and it's not treating again that root cause of the problem. And that's kind of how I designed this supplement to be. Not just something you can take before you get into bed with a lady and have a better performance, but it's also something that if you take it consistently over time, this problem will completely disappear. Your whole arterial health will drastically improve. You're less likely to get any cardiovascular issues. You're going to be fitter. You're going to be healthier. It's all positive side. The long-term side effects of taking something like this is all positive.
Yeah,
that's the way I wanted it to be.
So how does somebody? So in practical terms, then somebody gets wood, the product, and what happens then? They just start taking it. They start taking it on a regular basis, and then that improves the system so this isn't like a one or done thing like with say Viagra where like you said, you've met the girl, you pop a Viagra and then you have sex. Is this a long-term maintenance thing?
You can pop it that night, an hour or two before you see the lady. Cool, everything will be firing on point. But the more you take this, the more you use it, it's going to get better. Versus a Viagra, where the more you take it, the less effective it's going to get. With this one, the more you consistently take it, and I absolutely design it so you can take it as a daily supplement, and then that use builds up and the effect compounds on itself and gets better and better and better.
Yeah,
so it's literally doing the complete opposite thing to your cardiovascular system that like a pharmaceutical drug would do.
So you could do it either way. So you could use it as just as a supplement that you're taking daily, and you're getting these other benefits from it as well. It's not just the sex side of things, but you're also getting this clarity and this greater cardio ability and so on.
Exactly. Completely, exactly. Yeah.
But equally, if somebody got it and they said, right, I'm going to use this, but I want to use it more sporadically, as and when I'm going to have sex, or say I'm going away for the weekend with this girl, I want to be, maybe you use it for a few days over then. That's also applicable, right?
Yeah, put it in your suitcase. Take it with you.
Good stuff. Is there anything else that guys need to know? I mean, you've got various different packages available, haven't you, in terms of
Yeah. I mean, guys can they can subscribe and save a bunch of money. I mean, right now we've got at midnight tonight the launch of this product ends, so they can save up to like 60% off if they order before midnight tonight. And if they subscribe and save, well, then they save even more. And obviously, one bottle is priced a bit differently to like 3 bottles. Different, like the more you buy, the cheaper it gets. The more if you subscribe, it gets cheaper as well. So you can save a fair bit.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but that ends at midnight tonight. So
yeah, guys. So now is the time to take action. So I've got the link there, which I've been putting into the chat. So what was the kind of thinking behind producing this thing? Because obviously you mentioned, your own career, and obviously in porn you have to be able to perform on command and so on and so forth. But was it just an extension of the other work you've done with helping guys? Were you thinking actually this is just a more tangible way that I can really help guys out in this area?
Yeah, so I've basically all the supplements in this I recommend pretty regularly. I've recommended them in my email list. I've recommended them on videos I do. I've recommended them in books I put out. And it's from a personal perspective, it could be a bit annoying having like 6 different bottles of supplements and remembering what to take in what dosages, and it just make like the cognitive load of like cranking all that stuff out. I just wanted to make it a lot simpler for guys to consume the right stuff in the right quantities on a regular.
Well, and that is a genuine concern, because I was talking to Tusk recently about the stuff that, I mean, and not for this, but he's got various different supplements and stuff like that, and you're going through customs like a fucking, rattling like a bloody, and
you're a walking pharmacy.
Yeah, and I mean, even when everything is legit and everything else, you just don't really want to. I mean, it's good if you can minimize it, isn't it? From the weight perspective, as much as anything else, you don't really want to be, carting loads of bottles of stuff around. But we got Glenn Lawrence in the chat. He says, "My problem is that I have I last too long and I'm too thick. Any solutions?"
Cool. So the too thick I can't help you with. There's not much you can do except shave. You might try and shave a bit off. I wouldn't recommend that. That's what I have a similar. I have this joke where like anytime I meet a woman and she's talking about getting breast reduction surgery, my immediate response is that's the most retarded thing I've ever heard. It'd be like me going into the doctor and saying, "Hey doc, chop off 2 inches off my cock because it's too big." I think it's retarded. But how do you so you last too long, so you're trying to make it so you don't last quite as long. Cool. So there's a couple of very practical solutions you can take.
Well,
one that is sorry, what were we going to say?
I was going to say that is that's a genuine problem, actually, isn't it? Guys who can't finish or whatever, and then what do they do to bring it to a conclusion quicker, right?
Yeah. So the cause of this tends to be 2 different things. One, it can be excessive porn use. I don't think that's Glenn's situation, but just for anyone listening, that's a problem with a lot of younger guys. They had excessive porn use. They need more visual stimulus or more extreme stimulus to achieve the same kind of excitement that they would usually need to orgasm. That comes from consuming excessive amounts of porn. Now, that's one of the causes of this. The other cause of this is really like a conditioning thing, and another cause of this is serotonin levels. So, the opposite problem to this, right? The complete flip side of this is premature ejaculation, right? Guys who come too quickly. Fun thing that you will find with guys who take SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, which are like an antidepressant of sorts.
Yeah.
It's very, very commonly reported that dudes who had suffered from premature ejaculation, when they start taking SSRIs, the premature ejaculation problem disappears. So they're reducing their serotonin levels, and that prevents premature ejaculation. So there is a correlation between like speed of a man's like climax and serotonin levels. So you can like naturally start to try and increase your serotonin levels, Glenn, and you might find that time it takes you to orgasm will significantly reduce. It's a big one. Another like short-term kind of like just biohack really is to give yourself blue balls. If it's like a one-off thing, if there's like one particular woman who doesn't like quite get you there, well then just blue ball yourself for like a couple of days, like Edge, and then you should be raring to go like the moment you see her, and it'll be much easier. Women will really develop an insecurity and a complex around not being able to get a man to orgasm. It's quite fascinating. Because I mean, sometimes I just don't feel like jizzing. I feel like sometimes I genuinely just like feel like, you know what, I want to stay like fired up. I want to stay on edge. Like, especially like if I'm fucking her in the morning, or I'm seeing a couple of girls that day or whatever, and like it's a threesome thing. I'm like, no, I don't want to like lose my energy and like go down. You know what I'm saying? I want to stay at this like high intensity, high level of arousal like all day. Yeah. So I might not bust in the morning, and I'll keep going all day. Well, and some women will drive them absolutely insane if you try doing that.
Well, I've heard some weird stuff about that actually. I saw somebody recently posting. I don't know who it was, but somebody going like, "Yeah, man, I never come with a woman on the first date because that's giving too much of my power away." Like it's like the sort of it's almost like a variation of the the going down on a woman is beta type thing. Like, having an orgasm in the presence of a woman is beta because it shows that you know what I'm saying? It's that kind of
thing. We've reached peak internet.
Yeah. I never come when I'm with a woman. That gives her too much power.
I only come into my sock.
Yeah. I'm not giving these 304s that kind of validation, man. No free validation.
I have seen guys do that as a strategy, as a technique, but precisely for the reasons I just described, because women will develop a complex, an insecurity around it if you do not finish. Do with that information what you will.
Glenn says, is being friends with too many porn stars considered excessive porn use? If so, that's the problem.
Well, no, not unless they're jumping on your cock all day.
Well,
putting on live shows in front of you, maybe.
It's Glenn Lawrence, so they probably are. But there was an interesting question here, slightly off topic, but
any and all questions that the chat has, I'm more than happy.
Yeah, but this is quite a good one for both of us, really. But is sex addiction real, or is it just an excuse for not chasing what you want?
I think he means that the second half there. I think he means not working on anything else in your life, like health, business. Is sex addiction real? No, I don't think it's real. I think having a high sex drive is real, and I think being compulsive in like engaging in sex is a thing. It's a compulsion. I don't think it's an addiction. I think because for it to be an addiction, there has to be some kind of something you're consuming.
Well, I suppose with these sort of like what they call process addictions, I suppose people would make the argument that it's having this chemical effect in your brain, which is what they might say about porn as well. So even though it's not like you're injecting heroin, it's not like you're injecting a substance, but it is creating a chemical, some sort of chemical change in your brain that is in itself addictive. So I guess that might be the argument they would use.
Yeah, but it's all like to get sex as a man is still work. I don't like even if you're like Leonardo DiCaprio, right? You still have to like talk to a woman. You still have to put in effort and work to achieve like the result. So it's not the same as like pornography, where it's like I click a button and like I see titties. I don't really think that. I think like anytime you see like Sex Addicts Anonymous or Nymphomaniacs Anonymous meetings, it's really kind of just an excuse for people to get together and fuck.
Yeah, or you've got the classic like Tiger Woods type situation where you get caught out doing something and then it's like, oh,
I'm a sex addict.
I need to get therapy now, sort of thing.
Which is a cop out. I was like, no, bro, you're just a red blooded male who has options, and you're exercising those options. You're not a sex addict. That's just something you're trying to tell the media, and you're trying to tell your wife.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's. I kind of agree with you, basically, Sterling. I mean, I think anything can sort of become compulsive in a way. I mean, if you are, I mean, you're right about it requiring effort, but say it was a guy who's just paying hookers and he's going out every night and he's paying hookers and he's spending all his money and blah, blah, blah. I guess that behavior can become sort of compulsive. And if it's a problem, that's something obviously you need to moderate. But yeah, I mean, for the majority of guys, I don't know, man. I mean, there does seem to be a qualitative difference between that and being an alcoholic or being somebody who does cocaine all the time. I don't know. It just doesn't.
Yeah, because I can't see like okay, give me an example of how sex addiction would ruin your life. Like,
well, arguably, say you were addicted to seeing escorts and you were spending money every night, and then you spent all the money and you lost you couldn't pay the mortgage. That kind of situation. That would make sense. Then I'd probably call that like an escort habit rather than like a sex habit. Because if it was a sex addiction, like if you just had one girlfriend, you would like probably like. It's like it's a variety thing, not the sex thing, right? If a guy is possibly going to have to hiring escort after escort after escort, he's like getting a compulsion around like the ease of access, right, and the variety. It's not a sex addiction. That's true. Yeah, because otherwise it could just be with one woman. So it's it's a different thing. Thing. So he says, Nama says, I have this issue where I can only get hard with a girl if I haven't seen her eat, drive, and fart. When a girl does normal things around me, I just get so turned off and I can't get hard. Well, I mean, I'm not really into
eat. That eat and drive is an obscure one.
I mean, I get that. I'm not feeling that really. But although some got, apparently there are niches for that as well. But I'm not feeling that. But driving, I mean, I've never.
I can't tell if this guy is serious or not.
He might be trolling. What about rollerblading? So if you've seen the Barbie movie, when Margot Robbie rollerblades down the strip in Hollywood. Would you bang or wherever it is, Venice Beach or wherever it is? Would you bang her because she's done rollerblading, or would you be like, no, I'm not having it now?
What if she packs a suitcase? What if she like does the dishes? Like any of these things, like you ain't gonna have a wife because you're never gonna have kids. I sort of in principle, I get the overarching idea because there is a sense. I'm not saying this applies to me, but it's sort of like. It's kind of weird. Like I think as guys, we do want this sort of idealized version of a woman, not in the Madonna whore complex version of it, but we want to see her as, oh, she's this super sexualized person and she's just sexy the whole time and she doesn't do chores and she doesn't go and do the washing up and stuff like that. And that's why I think living together can be difficult sometimes because you do then get to see these regular sides of them. But the way he's describing it sounds very, very hardcore, really. So you take her. Well, there's great argument for not taking her out for dinner on the first day because you take her out for dinner and then you're like, "Fuck, I spent $200 on that dinner and now I'm just completely turned off." Apparently he's not trolling. He said he's replied back in the chat.
Oh, okay.
He said, "I don't know why, but I just get the ick or whatever. I feel so horrid after seeing them do things. But I've tried multiple girls and the same thing, and some of these birds are smoke shows." Okay, yeah, this is definitely something you have to work on.
Yeah,
because like this tells me, I think you just alluded to this, Troy, that you do not see women as humans.
Yeah,
that you see them as masturbatory aids. Because if they're not, unless they're this perfect idealized sexual object and they're not human, you cannot get off with them, which is bad. Like,
yes,
women are human beings as well, my friend. So you have, like, they are humans just like all of us. They do regular human things. They have faults and character flaws and things. So you have to find the sexuality in the woman, in the human.
Yeah, no, it is. It is a problem.
Separate the objectification of it.
Yeah, no, it is a problem, and if it's really as sort of severe as he's saying, then it's definitely something you need to have a look at somehow. Whether that's I don't know what you would do, whether that's going and talking to a therapist or something. But I mean, I mean, to a degree, I get it. I mean,
I think you might have to tone down he might have to tone down his disgust response. And that might sound weird, but so for example, like everyone in the porn industry has a very, very low disgust response because we're doing all kinds of really perverted, gross things like each other all the time. And there's a correlation between there's actually a strong correlation between high disgust response and conservative values, and like low disgust response and like more liberal leaning values, like politically and socially, which is a very interesting thing. Yeah, it's super consistent. So it sounds like to me when he mentioned, at least when he mentioned the fart thing, that kind of led me down that thought path that he has a high disgust response.
So conservatives have a higher disgust level than say liberals in general.
Yeah, for example, they'll here's the test they've done. They've shown they'll put someone in like an MRI scanner, like one of those brain scanning machines are, and they'll flash images in front of their face, and then they'll measure their brain responses. And so when they'll flash a picture of like maggots like eating a corpse, I think is one example they've used, and they find that conservatives have a far greater disgust response to an image like that than liberals do.
That's really interesting. Well, I suppose it's interesting. I guess it's not actually that surprising, because if we put that on Twitter, people would say, "Well, these liberals are all degenerates, so why are you surprised at that?" Right? I guess that would be the overarching.
Well, but there's a correlation there between the two. But there's a correlation between being degenerate and having a low disgust response.
Right. So he needs to get a bit more degenerate, basically.
That might be his solution.
Or I mean, it could be. And this
is seriously the first time I've ever heard of anything like this.
Well, could it also be? And look, I'm not singling him out, because maybe he doesn't watch porn. Maybe he's never watched porn in his life. I don't know. But could somebody in that situation? Because I can imagine if you were watching a lot of porn, so you have this very idealized version of what a beautiful woman should be like, what it should look like during sex and stuff, and then when you kind of, when the reality hits the road, rubber hits the road, and you're like, oh shit, actually she's got a bit of a vein there, and there's a bit of cellulite, and it kind of, the sheen gets taken off. Could it be if somebody was watching a bit too much porn, they've got this very like hyper real version of how it should be in real life, and anything less than that kind of turns them off?
That could be a possibility. I mean, I'm assuming he's still in the chat here. He can let us know if that's the case. And here's another possible solution. If this guy is consuming an excessive amount of pornography, here's a way you can get around it. Start watching looking for pornography where the woman is driving, where the woman is doing regular things.
Yeah. Or you know what he wants to do. What you should also do, if anyone is in this situation watching, you should get some classic old British porn. You should get some like Reader's Wives or something. You know what I mean? Some like kind of 1990s, early 2000s, like really ropey like British porn, and that'll like get your disgust level like leveled out, I would say. The problem is they're probably watching the porn they're watching is probably too high quality. You need to take it down a bit,
Right. We've given this guy a whole bunch of different angles to try and approach this from now. So absolutely,
yeah, we give too much attention really. But it's the conservative thing's interesting though, because I don't know. I mean, does that? Would you say that? I mean, you've said in the past, I'm trying to work out how to frame this question. You've said in the past that the porn industry is actually quite woke now. And so presumably there's quite a few liberal people working in it. But at the same time, you know, because one of the things, so obviously meeting Tiffany Fox and doing some work with her and so on, and she's worked in the porn industry herself. One of the things that I found kind of interesting about her is, on the one hand, she's kind of conservative. You know, her views are politically conservative. You know, she's a Trump supporter, etc., etc. You know, she's got all those views, but at the same time has worked in pornography. So there's that kind of degenerate. So she's certainly not a tradcon, put it like that. So do you think that's unusual, or do you think a lot of people can sort of compartmentalize those things?
She's the exception to the rule. So, same with me. I'm the exception to the rule.
Okay.
So there's a handful. I can think of a handful of porn stars right now. Pardon me. A handful of porn stars right now who are also very they're Trump supporting, or they're very conservative leaning, socially and politically. So it's like, yeah, the porn industry, like Tiffany said, it's super duper woke, super left leaning, super liberal, super feminist. And so there's literally a handful I can think of people I've met and worked with in the industry who would be more like right leaning. So it's definitely a compartmentalized thing, I think, but it's also like, it's obviously not 100% through and through. Like, if you have a high discuss response, you're going to be like a conservative, but it's just there's a high correlation to it.
Right. Yeah. That is interesting. That's interesting. Yeah. So if you were, I know that you've left the industry now and so on and so forth, but if you were going to say you were going into it now, or you're going to get back into it, would you take wood as opposed to anything else? Is this what you would recommend to somebody who's looking to, I mean, obviously, you know, not everyone watching this is going to, probably hardly anybody watching this wants to get into porn, but if you want to be somebody who's like got good libido, good sexual stamina, good sexual ability, you would be recommending this over any other kind of
I'd be leaning towards, like, obviously sorting out your diet, sorting out your lifestyle, sorting out your you know, making sure you live a healthy lifestyle is a foundation. On top of taking something like this, will make sure that your body's actually functioning as it should be, rather than having to, like, because here's the dangerous rabbit hole, right? I like Tiffany's last comment here. Me and Sterling are the bigots, says that. That's completely correct. That's exactly how we get labeled. 100% how we get labeled in the porn industry, just by having like, shall we say, black sheep. That's correct, Paul. By having red pill, you get labeled as a bigot, a misogynist, all this kind of stuff. An incel, oddly enough, which is the most retarded thing I've ever heard.
So weird, isn't it? How can you be a porn star incel? That would be.
I don't know. It's a hard logic fail.
Yeah,
if you ask me.
Yeah.
But what about here's the rabbit hole, right? I'll explain a really scary fucking rabbit hole that guys go down in the porn industry. So they go down, they start taking Viagra. And they take it for months and months and months and months, maybe half a year, maybe it's half a year, maybe it's a year. I don't know how long it takes before this sort of kicks in, right?
Yeah.
They take that, the drug stops working, or they have to take more and more of it, and it stops working. And then eventually they turn, and this is super common in Europe, but it's becoming more and more common in America. They turn to this drug called Cavaject.
Right. Okay.
Cavaject is literally a needle that you have to inject into your dick.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Terrifying. So it's got this little fluid or whatever, like, inject it into their dick, and then that forces like a 2-hour erection. You can't like take it, you can't get it down, like it stays there for like 2 hours.
That sounds awful.
Yeah. So that is like the next step, and that's fucking horrifying. But then if they take that too much, then eventually that stops working too. Like, again, they have to take more of a dose or whatever to get the same result, or it doesn't last as long, whatever. Then the next step is they have to get the robo dick. And the robo dick is when they like basically kind of hollow out the inside, the penile shaft, put a pump in it, and then you have like an external pump like somewhere in your. I think they either put it in their ball or they put it on their hip or something, and it's a button or a pump they push, and that will cause the dick to like inflate artificially, and then they press the button again and it deflates like a robot. It's fucking terrible.
That's fucking. And is that like a permanent, like, physical thing that has to get built in, or?
Yeah, it's a full-on surgery. They need to get that thing put in.
Jesus Christ! I guess there'll be some sort of AI kind of variance on this at some point.
Oh God, yeah. But that's the dark rabbit hole that dude's getting up going down. So
it's sort of.
I'm curious that like Tiffany like message me on Twitter after this. Like you said, your homeboy's wife injects him. I'm curious to know how that like. Wait, so she's down there with the needle on his dick? Like
is that part of the foreplay?
That sounds horrible. Yeah,
that part of the oh baby, I'm going to inject you now.
No, thank you.
There was a couple of bits here. I don't know. Just any comment on this? I think circumcision messes guys' ability big time. This is ability to get hard up. Maybe I don't know.
It definitely screws with it definitely makes the penis less sensitive, 100%. Because you're literally chopping off parts of it. You're screwing with the frenulum, and you've got no foreskin, so you've got nothing covering the glands and the head of the penis, which will make the skin like moist and sensitive, like it's supposed to be. So when you're circumcised, you will have a drier glands and a drier head of the penis, and thus it'll affect your sensitivity. It either makes you desensitized or it makes you oversensitized to the point where it's too much stimulation, so it's not even pleasurable. Circumcision is barbaric. I think it should be fucking outlawed. I don't think it makes no sense whatsoever. Your body is not normal by default. You don't need to fuck with it.
Yeah,
you don't need to go around chopping shit off.
Yeah, I agree. It's an very odd thing. What's up, Troy? Slightly off topic, but what's your opinion on OnlyFans management? I haven't really got an opinion on it, to be honest, other than that I think it sounds like fucking hard work.
It's a lot. It's for the management side of things, for the person replying to the messages and managing content and growing the social media accounts and stuff, is a lot more work than just the pure content creation side of things. So the actual account management and growing an account and monetizing the account is the hard part. It's the business side of things. And it's an industry that is saturated, very much so now, and it is flooded. And it's not an industry I would recommend anyone getting into, because I think it's the golden age, the time of making big money with this I think it's long past. You have a few big established players in the industry, and they're the ones that are making like this serious money that everyone hears about. The average OnlyFans like creator makes $500 a month. Like that's like the top fucking 10, but like up to the top 10% make only $500 a month or something like that. It's nothing.
So Tiffany's also given us some good insight here. Part of the reason why women are nuts in the industry is because of hormonal birth control too. And she's
very true. That is very, very true. Good point there.
Cream pie. So cream pie are basically messing with the mental health of female adult porn stars.
Well, they're taking the hormonal birth control so they can do cream pie scenes.
Yeah, exactly.
However, I did know a bunch of girls back in LA who weren't on hormonal do cream pie scenes, and as part of their paycheck, they would get a stipend to afford the morning after pill.
Oh, right, okay.
Which is even more nuts to me.
Yeah, because that makes you ill as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, that'll make women sick. The hormonal birth control is an interesting one because one, it screws up the women's bodies, and two, women's mate choices drastically change when they're on hormonal birth control.
That's really, it's really fascinating. So just remind me, because I do know about this, but I've sort of forgotten. When they're on hormonal birth control, do they want the more alpha dude, or do they want the less alpha dude? And then when they're off it,
when they're on hormonal birth control, they tend to settle for guys who have less masculine traits, less aggressive traits, more softer. They tend to go for men who are softer, more feminine, like soy boy liberal beta types. You might use those words to describe them. That's who we'll typically go for when they're on hormonal birth control. And then what happened? Then people wonder why the divorce rate is so high in the Western world, when a giant chunk of the female population are on birth control. They're with that guy. They decide they're going to have kids. They get off birth control. They have a kid, and then they realize, wait a minute, I'm not even attracted to this guy.
Fuck, man.
And then they end up divorcing him and taking the kid.
That's mad, isn't it? There's a couple of things that brings to mind. One of them is there's a great film, or there's a good film with Blake Lively in it, whose name I forget, so this is of no value to anybody. But basically what happens, Blake Lively is that quite hot girl who used to be in Gossip Girl. She's blind. At the beginning of the movie, she's blind, and she's married to this dude. And then somehow she gets her sight back, and she realizes the dude she's with, she's kind of like, not really feeling this. And then it's how it unfolds. And it's almost like that's a metaphor for the same thing, you know?
Very much so.
And the other thing is as well, I'm not, obviously not being a female, contrary to popular belief. I've got the bits down there, but the hormonal stuff was always a little bit of a mystery to me until recently, when I have started to to supplement a few things under medical supervision, of course, and I can just start to see a glimmer of the difference that can make in terms of one's mental outlook and in terms of the way that you're approaching life. Do you know what I mean? I could just start to a little bit see, okay, so hang on a minute. Would I have thought the same way about this before, or would I think about it again? You know what I'm saying? So it's amazing how much hormones actually affect our mental capacity and the decisions we make.
Completely. Yeah. They'll make with dudes, higher testosterone levels makes dudes hitting hitting the gym, just hitting the gym will make a guy more right leaning. Regularly exercising.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's really fascinating because it's really weird. I talked to Tusk about this a lot actually, because we've been talking about the hormonal stuff a lot this year, and it's sort of like, before I understood concepts like depression and you said, okay, you're in a certain mental state, that's why you're doing these things, that's why you're behaving like this. What I never really realized until fairly recently was actually your hormones, and not just testosterone but across the board, these hormones really fucking affect this stuff as well, in a way I never really understood.
Completely. Yeah, man. It's a lot. And all these things are interconnected with one another. Like, the human body is not this series of isolated systems. And Western medicine in all of its glory, which is incredibly effective at treating emergency room response, saving lives, and all these kind of things. It's incredibly good at treating very acute specific issues, but it has tried to compartmentalize the body, and that's not really how it works. Nutrition and lifestyle and exercise and sleep are the foundational building blocks of basically everything. And if any of these things are compromised, if your diet is off, your nutrition's off, the amount of sunlight exposure you have is off, your sleep's off, it starts to have these cascading effects on every little hormonal and biochemical interaction in the body. And it's far better to look at the human body in a holistic system.
The
root causes of everything and get back to the fundamentals.
For sure, which is why something like your supplement would is good, because you're addressing some of these different aspects within it, like with the beetroot, for example, and the pomegranate. You're addressing different parts of the whole, if you like.
Exactly.
Whereas, of course, like we said, Viagra, blunt instrument, whacking it over the head with a hammer. We've been on for a while now, so I don't want to obviously take too much of your time, but just out of interest, this guy here's name unknown is saying, Matrix, I don't like that term, are trying to make guys softer and also make women like softer guys. That did spring into my head actually when if you were conspiratorially minded, you might say, well, the reason women are encouraged to be on birth control is that then they're going to like softer guys, and that there's this war on masculinity, so keep the guys soft and blah blah blah. I mean, how much of that do you think is sort of intentional, or how much of it is just a sort of series of, I don't know, coincidences of just the way the society's moving?
I mean, it's a lot of coincidences to be happening, a lot of simultaneously aligned coincidences. However, do I think the person who invented birth control knew the knock-on ramification effects that would happen at the very beginning? No. But now that they are known, are they trying to now that they are clearly known, we do not see any public campaigns to disincentivize women from taking it, right? So there's did they know how bad they would be? No. Did they know how bad? For example, another great example in the US is a thing called atrazine, which is a herbicide pesticide that's sprayed on. It's only allowed in America. It's illegal everywhere else in the world. But remember that old Alex Jones thing where he said it's turning the frogs gay? That's atrazine that does that. It's atrazine in the water supply that actually does that. And that ends up in municipal. That's in the water supply in the food table in America.
Jesus,
it's super powerful pesticide which does have serious effects on the male hormonal endocrine system.
Okay. To make you
more feminine. Makes you more feminine. Jacks your estrogen up. Drops your testosterone, basically. But did they know that was going to cause that problem initially? No, but it's obvious now, and they're not stopping it.
No
one in charge is incentivized to put the brakes on any of these things that are making men softer, weaker, lower testosterone. more unhealthy, less hormonally balanced.
So, how much of a war on masculinity do you think there actually is in the West? Quite significant.
I think it has to be quite significant because when you have weak men, you have women. We know women make more purchasing decisions. They're bigger consumers. They control more of the debt. They vote more than men. They're more registered voters than men as well. So when you disincentivize men and effeminize men and make them less ambitious, less driven,
you
empower the women to take on that role more, because all these things that we mentioned, like atrazine and what else we mentioned, like birth control in the water supply, they have a massive effect on dudes, and they have a negative effect on women, but it's nowhere near as changing, like behaviorally changing as it is on women. On women rather. So it screws up guys a lot more than it screws up women. So all these effects all these things, all these knock-on ramifications, all these little things combined together put women in a far more or keep women in a position of like taking on more consumer debt, taking on more student loan debt, consuming more erratically, voting more liberal, voting more left-wing. This is consistently happening again and again and again.
Yeah.
If you were to fix and say correct all these things, like, okay, we cut out birth control from the water supply, we cut out atrazine, just as a basic example, we allow raw milk to be sold again, like so dudes can get better nutrition, you would probably see a greater push in the opposite direction. You'd probably see men leading in the household a bit more. You probably see lower divorce rates. You probably see men with more stay-at-home mothers and more men taking on leadership roles in like local school groups and community groups and things like this. And it would be and with all that, you would see a significant reduction in women taking on debt, consumer debt, credit card debt, student loan debt, and women like making more erratic, impulsive purchasing decisions. So like overall, the level of consumers would drop.
Yeah, definitely. And there is something as well in terms of more women voting for left-leaning parties. And this is something that Pearl talks about a lot. If you look at basically you just look at the stats of who women vote for and where they spend money, and I mean it's all pretty clear, isn't it?
Yeah. And name unknown in his previous comment, he said here like having everyone soft means they're easily controlled by social media, etc. That is actually true. Yeah. So the more you feminize men, the more you keep men feminized, the more suggestible they are. The less likely they are to oppose like the media, the government, whatever authority figures are telling them what to do.
Yeah. And it is really true, isn't it, as well? I mean, like I'm back in London now, walking around New York for the last couple of weeks. I mean, what I find it more interesting now to go to places like South America, Mexico City, go to Colombia, whatever. Because I mean, there is a sort. And listen, I'm not sitting here pretending to be like some kind of Andrew Tate figure or whatever, but there is a soyness, isn't there? When you walk around central Manhattan, when you walk around London, you look at the dudes and just the way they carry themselves, the way they're like, there's just a sort of a kind of weediness, isn't there, about modern men when you're watching them out there in the wild that is pretty obvious to I think the casual observer,
especially if you go to a hipster cafe.
Oh fucking hell, man! Well, but that's all there is now, right? I mean, like, great stuff. Well, look, anyway, I don't want to obviously take up any more of your time because I know you're a very busy man. But Wood is out now, so they've got until midnight tonight, and you can get significant savings on the supplement if you go to the link here, which I'll just put back in the chat again.
Bingo.
Any final thoughts? Anything else?
No, that's it. That's yeah. So if you guys want to take a more holistic approach towards solving erection problems and just having a more consistent, longer lasting, stronger performance downstairs when you're with your lady, then I would highly suggest you check it out.
Absolutely. So make sure you check that out. That's the link there. It'll be in the description below this video. I'll be sending out some emails regarding this as well. But yeah, just make sure you click on the link and get it sorted. Because like we said, I mean, these foundational things, that your nutrition, what you put into your body, it makes such a massive difference for your sex life, but equally for all these other aspects of your life as well. Focus, concentration, determination, etc., etc. So you really need to get this stuff sorted.
Exactly.
Great stuff. All right, Sterling. Pleasure as always. Many thanks, and see you again very soon.